Before we begin, please imagine the bell notification is on and you're subscribed to Huna Stories. I could feel it before it happened, the familiar tightening in my chest whenever she brought up my finances in that tone, the one that made it clear she thought she had a claim she never earned. I had rehearsed this moment in my head countless times, measuring my words, my posture, my patience. Yet every rehearsal fell short of the reality. The faint smirk on my stepmother's face, my father's habitual half-smile that never intervened, and the quiet hum of our living room that seemed too aware of the tension for comfort. It started innocuously. She leaned back in her chair, hands folded, as if she owned the space, and mentioned lightly, almost casually, something about my salary, what I should really be saving, how I should consider other family obligations. The words were soft, but the edge was unmistakable. My father chuckled nervously, perhaps out of discomfort, perhaps to deflect the growing unease. I felt the old surge of resentment, the kind that had simmered through years of tiny encroachments, subtle judgments, and unspoken hierarchies. For a moment, I hesitated. Could I risk this confrontation? Could I challenge them without fracturing what remained of our fragile family dynamic? Then the thought sharpened. Enough. Not tomorrow, not later, now. I had earned my living, managed my responsibilities, and carried more than my share of patience. No one, not my stepmother, not my father, would dictate the terms of my dignity. I looked my father straight in the eyes. No preamble, no hesitation. "One more word from your mother about my money," I said, my voice calm, precise, "and there will be no more polite conversations. I will deal with her myself, explaining her boundaries and why my money is not hers. Do you understand?" Silence, the kind that stretches thin across a room but feels heavy enough to press against your ribs. My father's gaze flickered from my eyes to the floor and back, unsteady, as though the weight of my calm assertion had shifted the ground beneath him. He opened his mouth, then closed it. Words failed him in a way they never had before. The habitual defensiveness, the habitual dismissal were gone. My stepmother's smirk faltered, replaced by the faintest hesitation. She opened her mouth as if to respond, then closed it again. The usual command of the room, the one she wielded like a baton, was interrupted, fractured. For the first time in years, I held the quiet authority, not through anger, not through spectacle, but simply because I had claimed what was mine, the space to speak without apology, and the right to enforce my boundaries. In the aftermath, the room settled into a different rhythm. Conversation continued, but with a subtle shift. My stepmother's usual intrusions softened, her remarks about money reduced to neutral observations. My father, ever cautious, offered a small nod at one point, a gesture of acknowledgement that required no words, no theatrical reconciliation. The balance of power had altered, but the shift was silent, understated, and undeniably real. Later, I sat alone in the same room, the quiet settling around me like a slow exhale. Relief washed over me, paired with a residual bitterness I could not shake entirely. There had been no celebration, no vindictive satisfaction. The victory was quiet, internal, a reclamation of self-respect in a landscape that often demanded compromise. I understood then that asserting boundaries with someone you love or once loved is never without consequence, yet it is necessary, even if the consequences are measured, muted, and imperfect. I glanced at the photograph on the mantel, a family portrait taken before she arrived, before lines of authority had shifted and fractured. I allowed myself a small, private acknowledgement of strength. The room was unchanged, the air unaltered in its neutrality, yet I had changed. I had claimed what was mine, without spectacle, without drama. That, I realized, was the quietest form of power, calm, controlled, unassailable. I exhaled, and for the first time in years, I did not flinch at the thought of her words.